Hi there. In this video we're going to look at merging or joining two tables inside of Power Query. So to start off with, we're in first single join.xlsx. We're in the query sheet. So here's a query that we've currently got in progress, and it is transactional information from our lemonade stand. And what we've got is we've got the time that the transaction happened, we've got the order number, we've got the product ID, and we've got how many products were sold, which is okay, but is not very meaningful. We'd like to know what product 0010 is, and we'd like to know whether it's food, whether it's, what its subcategory is, things like that. So if we come over here to raw data, we can see here's the transactional data that we already had, and here's what the query is pulling from. It's pulling from this guy right here. What we also have is we have another table that has, for each product ID, it has the name of the product, the category of the product, the subcategory of the product, and the unit price. In terms of sort of business intelligence jargon, this is often referred to as a fact table. This is a table that contains a bunch of things that happened, and this over here is a dimension table. It contains a bunch of ways to describe things that happened. So nothing actually happens in this table. It just is a place where you could describe other things. So here we describe the product ID of each one of these facts, these things that happen. So what we want to do, in Excel, we would basically do a bunch of VLOOKUPs. So we would use VLOOKUPs to add name and category and subcategory and unit price to this table. And in Power Query there is no VLOOKUP. However, there is merge or joining, if you want to call it joining. That's what you would call it in SQL or something like that. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to head over here to query. We're going to click on this table. If Workbook Queries isn't open, no big deal. Head up to the Power Query tab, click on the Show Pane button, right? And we're going to head over here to Query Joined, and we're going to, well, let's not right click on it yet. So the thing that has to happen is, in order to join two tables, they both have to be queries. So right now, this table right here is a query. This table needs to be a query. So we're actually going to click on this table over here, product dimension table, head up to Power Query, and get our data from a table. And right now this is called tab dim products. You could call it whatever you like, although this is something you will definitely want to name. And that's just fine. For now, that's a decent enough name. So let's head over here. If we see over here it says queries, we could actually twirl this open and look at all the different queries that already exist. So here's the dimension product table, and here is the fact table, the one that we're starting with. So what we want to do is we want to join this to this. Okay, and since this is already a query, this is pretty easy. What we're going to do is we're going to head up here to merge queries, is what it's called. You can also think of this as joining or VLOOKUP, whatever you like. Click on the merge button. Okay, so here's the merge dialog. The first thing we have to do is pick a second table that we want to merge on. Well, there's only two tables. You could actually merge a table on itself or join a table on itself, but we're not going to do that, maybe in a later video. We're going to join this on the tab dim products. So here we've got all the transactions, and we're going to join it with the ways of describing all of the different products in this transaction table. We're not done yet, though. We have to do a couple more things. The first of which is we have to pick which column we want to join on. So if you notice down here, we've got the first column is called product ID. That uniquely identifies each one of these rows, and that's what we want to join on, especially since if we look up here in the fact table, or in the transaction table, there's also a column called product ID. So that's a pretty good indication that this is the column you're going to join on. Sometimes they're not named exactly the same thing, but oftentimes they are. So we're going to join on those. So we're going to click on product ID and product ID. So now we're joining on these two columns. So when we're adding columns over to this table, we know that, like here for this row, we want to add the name, category, subcategory, unit price. We're going to go look for a unit or product ID P0010 down here in the product ID column. And P00, well, it's not there. Let's see. Here's a better example. In this one, we want to look for product ID 02. So we're going to come down to P02. Oh, there we go. So for this last row, the name of the product would be coffee medium, the category would be beverage, the subcategory would be coffee, and the unit price would be $1.75. So that's how that works. Finally, we could actually choose the join kind. There's several options here. For right now, let's stick with the left outer, and that's the one you'll use most often, and it's most like VLOOKUP. That basically means for every row in this table, we're going to add information from this table over here. That's the way to think about that. And if it's not present in this table, we'll just get blanks. That's okay. So let's go ahead and click OK. Now, when you do this, you actually have to do it in 2 steps, which is a little confusing if you're thinking about VLOOKUP. The first step is to join the column here, and the second step is to actually expand it outward. So we've added our joined column, and if you'll notice, let's see, where was that when we were looking at P02 down here? Here for this transaction where the product ID was P02, we've now got this new table which had the row from that other dimension table for product 2, and the name and the category, the subcategory, and all that stuff. So when we expand these out, we'll get all the new columns. So I'm going to click on the expansion button. I'm going to uncheck use original column name as prefix. When I'm doing that, I'm going to make sure that there aren't duplicates. And right now there are duplicates. There's a product ID here in the outer table and one here in the inner table. Now, if these were actually different things, I might go change the name of this product ID, but I happen to know, in fact, the way it's defined, this product ID is going to have the same stuff as this product ID, so we could just not include this when we expand outward. Okay, so now we can go ahead and click OK. And there we go. We've joined these 2 tables together. We've VLOOKed up, I guess, the name, category, subcategory, unit price for all this transactional stuff. And so now we can load this back into a pivot table and do a bunch of other fun stuff with it. Okay, well that's a nice easy example of how to do merging or joining here in Power Query. I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video.